back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I'm looking forward to this conversation with Sandeep Dayal, who's a seasoned marketing and strategy leader at the consulting firm Sorrenti Marketing Group. He serves as a counselor to C-suite executives and board members at global Fortune 500 companies and has helped clients build blockbuster brands in markets spanning the EU, Latin America, Asia, and the United States. And importantly, he has written a new book, Branding Between the Ears, using cognitive science to build lasting consumer connections. Sandeep, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's an honor. So, Sandeep, I'd love to get to know the person behind the microphone. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about you and how you became so passionate about this topic of branding, but specifically using cognitive science?
Absolutely delighted to. So I've, most of my life in my career, I've been doing consulting for various companies, starting early on with a company called Booz, and then moving on to another company called McKinsey, and then finally setting up my own shop, which is Sorrenti. And most of my passion throughout this time frame has been in working with in doing work that's marketing related. And the reason for that always has been that I just love sort of understanding how people behave, how their minds work, and so on. So this whole connection to consumers has something that has always fascinated me and been important. And branding is obviously a big part of what marketing is. It's, in fact, I would argue that it's the biggest thing in marketing, right? I mean, when you look at a cup of coffee, without the Starbucks logo on it, it's just a cup of coffee. So, the brand piece is worth billions of dollars. And it's fascinating how our minds, as human beings, how our minds respond to the whole idea of brand. So it's just something that has, for the last 15 years or 20 years for me, has been a big source, a big passion for me to really get deep inside understanding this whole area and understanding consumers even better than I've ever understood.
Oh, fascinating. Absolutely. So when we talk about the old way of doing branding, what is that? And essentially, how are cognitive brands different?
Right. So that's a great question. So the simplest way to think about it is that historically, we have pretty much done branding. We have equated branding with this whole idea of product differentiation, which means that we look at, I got a product X. And then somebody else, my competition has product Y and product Z and so on. And I just look, how is my product different from their product, right? And then I make a list of those differences. And then I go ahead and say, hey, my brand is about these three things which are different from everybody else. And that's what it has been. And the problem with that approach is that our human mind doesn't really do well with lists. We don't remember lists. Our minds are not designed to do that. And you can see that in your own experience. Your spouse might tell you to go to the grocery store and buy 5 things. And unless you write them down, by the time you get there, you're not going to remember them, even though they're just 5 things. And so that's because we're not designed to remember lists. So now what these cognitive brands are, they understand really how the human mind works. What are the kinds of things that register in our memories? What are the kinds of things that we tend to notice? What are the kinds of things that tap into our memories and fantasies and things like that? And when you understand those things better, you design your brands not around lists of benefits, but around those, the keys to tapping into those types of experiences, if you will. So that's what a cognitive brand is. Very simply, it works because it works the way your brain does.
Absolutely. I'm chatting with the author of a brand new book called Branding Between the Ears, using cognitive science to building lasting consumer connections. And again, I'm chatting with Sandeep Dayal. Very, very interesting conversation about cognitive branding. So Sandeep, I have to ask, in this day and age, and both with the market out there as well as just in general, call it attention spans. The reality is that we're all being bombarded with messaging, lots and lots of communication, and everybody has their phones on them. How can you say that consumer attention spans are not getting shorter? And is there really a need to focus on this whole cognitive science thing that you talk about in your book?
Short answer, yes. You have to focus on exactly that. And the reason is that when we think about our own minds, there is a conscious mind and there is a subconscious mind. And we are looking at in cognitive branding both the ability to do things consciously and do things subconsciously. So when we talk about attention spans, we're really talking about those conscious attention spans, which people believe are getting shorter. But really, the attention spans we should be focusing on are the subconscious attention spans that people have. And those are as long as ever. Now, think about this. When you go to a movie, right, you can sit through a 2-hour movie and completely understand the story and come back and tell your friend about it. So there's no problem with attention spans. We are capable of remembering things for days, for months, and so on. But the real issue is it really worthwhile to remember something that is being said to you, right? So the brands have an uphill task in terms of making sure that what they have to say is a good storyline, that it's a storyline that gets noticed and so on. But if you are able to do that, which is your job as a marketer, then there is absolutely no problem with attention spans, and attention spans can be very long.
Oh, so true. And I love that analogy about a movie. My only challenge is sometimes staying awake through the movie, but you're right about the attention span, that's for sure. So most people are saying that in this world's increasing competition, technology, which we've been talking about, consumers have more power. But you're saying that it's actually marketers that have increasing power given this knowledge that we've been talking about how consumers' brains work. And you certainly understand it better than anybody. So I am curious about the ethical implications and how marketers should behave. How can they use that sort of that knowledge and that information that they/you have?
And that's a fantastic question. And, the first thing that marketers have to do is to do exactly what you did, which is to ask that question, right? So it is true. Yes, we are learning a lot more about the brain. And so we know how people's subconscious minds work, right? So we have that ability as marketers to start manipulating people more and more. And as we learn even more about the brain, that ability grows. So yes, in that sense, marketers have all this awesome power now. But the real question to ask is just because you have the power doesn't mean that you should use it, right? That is the balance that people have to strike. And my advice to marketers is to do what you did, which is, whenever you're about to do something, ask that question, is this the right thing to do? And in the book, I have a chapter which is called Minding Your Manners, which is really the chapter on ethics. It talks about, 3 things that you should do. You should ask the canonical question, which is, should I, is this something that if somebody did this to me, would I like it? Right. So that's the canonical principle. The second principle is if you started doing something and everybody replicated what you're doing, then would that be a good thing for society? And then the last question is, if what you're doing appeared on the first page of the New York Times, would you be embarrassed? So, if the answer is the yes to any of those questions, then you shouldn't be doing whatever it is you're thinking of doing. So ethics should be top of mind for every marketer.
Sure. Again, I'm chatting with Sandeep Dayal, fascinating read, Branding Between the Ears Using Cognitive Science to build lasting consumer connections. It came out in late November 2021. And in a moment, we're going to send people there. But Sandeep, I love to leave our listeners with a little homework assignment, and especially realizing that many of our listeners are small business owners, entrepreneurs. They may be saying that many of the bits of advice that they heard from you, Sandeep, are relevant to large companies. Are all these principles, is this information true for small companies as well? And what would you recommend they start doing in the week ahead?
Oh, absolutely. So the answer is, again, this is very important for small business owners, because whether you're small, whether you're opening, even if you just operate a lemonade stand, you still have a name, you still have a brand. So it is very important. The difference between small and large companies is that in a small company, the owner of the company does most of the work. So the owner of the company is the marketer, he's the brand manager, and he's the general manager and the janitor and everything. So this book is designed for people like that to be able to read the book and have some easy examples and easy frameworks and be able to apply to their businesses. Just remember one thing, this book is all about how the human mind works. And the human mind is the human mind. We don't have a different brain for small businesses and a different brain for large businesses. It's the same brain. It works the same way. So very much so, the ideas and the principles and the frameworks and the examples in this book are relevant to anyone that has.
Awesome. Well, let's make sure we get our listeners in touch with you and your book. How can people learn more and pick up a copy?
Well, the book is called Branding Between the Years, and it's available online everywhere, Amazon, Walmart, and all those places. And the second thing people can do is to go to my author website, which is sandeepdayal.com, and sign up for my blog.
Fantastic. SandeepDayal.com. A great blog, a great book, lots of great advice, and I look forward to having you back real soon. So Sandeep Dayal, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this information on branding. Got to squeeze in a very quick break here and get down to business. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.